The sounds of Go-Go Seymour right there on this very amazing Friday. I hope you enjoyed that bit of the show and you danced a bit. You know, that's how we start our weekend. Karibu sana to Your World Friday edition. I'm your host, Mwikali. Always amazing to have you join us every day of the week for this particular show. And I know we are from having a very hype, energetic kind of session right there in the last about 30 minutes. But right now we're getting into something that is a bit heavy, a bit deeper, but a concern. It's a conversation that probably needs more than an hour. And probably we should have this conversation every other day. But then again, we have to respect that 16 days have been set aside to just have this conversation. And we're glad to be a part of it. And the conversation we're having today is we're putting a spotlight on a new frontline on gender-based violence. And this is the digital world, and this is majorly concerning the woman. And this is in line with the 16 days of activism. And the theme for this year is Unite and Invest to End Violence Against Women, against all women and girls. And when we're looking at this, there's just a little statistics that I want to give you today. In Kenya, almost 1 in 3 women online face tech-enabled harm. And globally, you have around estimated 27 times more likely, women are more likely to be harassed online than men. And the damage does not just stay on the screen. It follows you at the workplace. It follows you at home. It follows you in all these places. But the conversation we're having today is, what are we doing? There's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of silence around these spaces where women just keep quiet. But who's benefiting from the silence? Who? Okay. So I have an amazing panel for you that will help us have this conversation, even as we wait for one more to join us. And, you know, starting off on my immediate left, Winnie, we miss you every time we do this. Starting off from my immediate left, we have Nzomo Mbidoka. Welcome to the show. National Gender and Equality Commission Commissioner. Maybe you can just break it down. What does that mean? It's a huge title.
Right. So thanks a lot, Mwikali.
Yes.
Like you said, it's a topic that is worth our discussion and attention as a country. As you said, rightfully, my name is Nzomo Mbidoka. I'm a commissioner in the National Gender and Equality Commission. In short, it's NGC.
Yes.
And this is a constitutional commission that has been set up to safeguard the rights of the special interest groups in the country who've been traditionally the marginalized and minorities. So that includes women, it includes children, it has minority communities, amongst us, persons with disabilities, and youth and children.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you so much. And right next to Nzomo Mbidoka, we have Juliet Mwema, who's the Executive Director, Elevate Her. And that's a very interesting name because I host another show called The Elevate Show.
Really?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Karibu sana, lovely having you on the show. Maybe you can just tell us, Elevate Her, what does it do?
Thank you so much, Mwikali. Like you rightfully put it, my name is Juliet Mongeli Mwema. I am the Executive Director, Elevate Her. It's a women-led grassroots organization working with women and girls with disabilities, as well as caregivers of children with disabilities, majorly around empowering them on their rights. So it's rights awareness and advocacy right at the community level.
Lovely. Well put. Straight on the point. Short and sweet. Yes. I love it. And last but not least, Jane Moya, who is a Civic Space and Digital Rights Officer at Oxfam Kenya. Karibu sana.
Asante Mwikali. So my name is Jane Moya. I work with Oxfam. Oxfam is a global non-governmental organization that works to end inequality with a view to end injustice and poverty. So we have various programs cutting across the humanitarian spaces in terms of delivering assistance in conflict, emergency. But we also have various development programs, including gender justice and digital rights, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Which is the conversation that we are having today.
Absolutely. And just talking about the theme today and the focus on women, and probably even someone who's probably hearing 16 days of activism for the first time, how would you describe what that is for them and tying it in with the theme for this year?
Okay, yeah, so 16 days of activism is basically starts on the 25th of November to the 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day.
Yes.
And it's it seeks to shed or to allow people to focus on the issue of gender-based violence, essentially. So we'll have different themes, different issues discussed through the year. But today we are talking about tech-enabled gender-based violence, which is basically violence that is enabled, propagated, amplified on digital platforms, targeting people on the basis of their gender, basically. Yeah, so it is another layer to GBV as we know it. We are still fighting hard, really hard, to end gender-based violence in the offline world, but here we are, we live in a digital era. There's a lot happening in that space. We have seen how that space is important in terms of mobilizing, in terms of giving us voices, amplifying messages. But then the flip side of that is also the offline challenges have been translated into online spaces, and they can become even bigger because the platforms are wider, the reach is wider, there's anonymity that people can enjoy in those spaces. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a sad affair for women when you think about it, because we are still struggling in our offline world. Yes. We can barely walk anywhere without worrying or being apprehensive on the possibility of encountering violence. Yes. But then here we are trying to make our way, pave our way, and also engage in the digital world, which is basically what digital rights is. It's our ability to exercise our freedom of opinion, freedom of expression, our privacy on online spaces. Yeah. But then that is also met with violence.
It does. It's so sad because we've not even cleared what it looks like in the offline world, and now with in the digital space, there's keyboard warriors. You never see their faceless. You don't know what they look like. We have pseudos left, right, center. So it's a concern, and I'm happy that we're having this conversation. And just moving on to Juliet and talking about how layered it is when we're talking about persons living with disabilities. What kind of harm are we looking at?
Thank you very much for that question. The layers are quite different depending on the disability. As a visually impaired person, I use a screen reading software to navigate a computer in my phone. So what this looks like, the screen reading software, for example, is not able to make out images that are manipulated or memes that have abuses because they're often buried in larger images. Most government portals or banking apps are totally inaccessible for the screen reader. So this will mean that I, as a visually impaired person, will have to depend on a sighted person to help me navigate the system. What does this do to me? It means I'm exposing my data to someone else in order for me to get help. This can lead to exploitation, breach of privacy, and a lot of deception. For example, if I'm depending on someone, they can easily lie to me because I'm not able to see what they are doing. For a person who is hard of hearing, for example, this harm or abuse can be in form of audio because they're not able to see. Someone who has a social disability, online they face different forms of abuse. For example, they'll face manipulation because of their level of understanding. They will face coercion. They will face even online grooming because the perpetrators know about their levels of vulnerability. Someone who is physically challenged, for example, will face a lot of harassment. And fetish, people sending them even sexual videos because of the nature of their disability. So all of us face different types of disability harm on the online platform, and unfortunately they are often not reported or not factored in the major discourse of online technologically enabled gender-based violence.
And I think we sometimes do not see or anticipate such situations or being in such spaces. We are reckless and careless in how we speak, in how we treat each other. And it's worse when you have to depend on somebody else to help you navigate that space. And maybe, Nzomo, you'd help probably us understand what are some of the things probably that can be done or are being done when it comes to navigating this space, because we have amazing policies. But now the action of implementing them and seeing that tunaweza fuatililia hii mpaka tupate, especially if you're a nobody, because most of us are nobody. So you end up just sitting in a little corner and probably cutting yourself from the online space or getting into depression. And we've seen a lot of that happening. People have taken their own lives because of such kind of bullies.
Right, so thanks a lot, Mwikali.
Yeah.
One of the areas that I want to speak to is beyond just the bullying and all these harassment.
Yes.
Is the economic opportunity that is lost. Because if you cannot be able to access your online platforms, and a lot of people right now are using these platforms to trade. You know, it becomes your livelihood.
Yes.
So if this becomes the place where you get all these harassment, then what does that do to you is that, you know, you'll shy off in terms of engagement. It impacts you in terms of economic opportunities that you can be able to access. And, you know, that is becomes a human rights issue. It becomes a sustainability issue and affects all of us. That's a multiply effect.
Yeah.
But what is being done around this area, because it's quite huge.
It is.
I've been asking people, you know, who are the perpetrators? Is it men? Because inordinately it's affecting a lot of women.
Yes.
Could it be that the aggressors are women themselves and you know, against fellow women? That data is still out there. You know, we've not been able to you know, get hold of it.
Yes.
But I think most important is what interventions can government be able to put in place? And I think one of the ways has been through legislation.
Yeah.
And Mwikali, you know that there is an amendment that came, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act.
Yes.
Amendment for law that was done in 2018.
Yeah.
And it was to cure some of these elements. You know, where people are misusing their social media platforms to, you know, hire abuses, identity theft, sextortion, which is what you know, she was talking about.
Yes.
And all these are different areas.
Yeah.
There's still a gap in terms of how these the justice system is supporting us to address these issues. Because one, when you get abused online, your preference is that there's a faster turnaround time in getting these cases out of, you know, the backlog of the court system.
Yes.
And yes, we applaud the judiciary. We work with them and we set up a GBV court in Kilifi. But is that enough? You know, if you get abused in Nairobi, will you have to travel all the way to Kilifi to get redress? So there's a lot that needs to be done. And I think it's what we say, all hands on deck.
Yes.
Where, you know, civil society, government, private sector can be able to come on board and support us to ensure that our spaces, we live within them ethically, and that you know, we have very minimal of these cases happening, where, you know, there's abuse and exploitation of our women and girls.
Okay.
Beyond that is what can these platforms support us in doing? Because we are talking about social media, because it's one of the ways that we are getting a lot of cases coming on board.
Yes.
But again, you know, how is the reporting mechanism? How long does it, what is the turnaround time?
Yes.
Beyond that is there's moderation of content. For this moderation of content, you know, are they moderating based on English? Because some of the abuse is happening in our vernacular languages.
Yes. Yes.
So, and herein is where now we need a greater partnership with the technology companies to come on board, and we see how best we can be able to, one, fast track response to complaints that have been raised. But beyond that is number two, how we can be able to now work closely on local languages, on moderation and ensure that some of this content is, or sites or applications can be blocked as the act was envisioning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not a Kenya issue. It's not an Africa issue. It's a global issue, and it happens everywhere. And I think there's a time that I think, was it Taylor Swift was there were pictures of her that were put deep. It was deep fakes. Deep fakes, and she was able to do something about having them cleared and eliminated from the internet. But then you can see what kind of muscle we're talking about. It's Taylor Swift. But are there things that the other part of the world is doing that we can learn from, or something that we can do here that is working there? Or are they also struggling the way we are, trying to navigate this space to find out how can we stop this? Is it the if you're caught, probably the repercussions of that? Is it the penalties around that? What is it that can be done or is being done in, like, practically, to just say, ukifanya hivi, kunaenda hivi?
Right. I think the law is amended. Is introducing stiffer penalties of around 20 million or 10 years in jail.
Good.
So that serves as a deterrence.
Yes.
But is that good enough? I think one of the ways we need to address it is through public education.
Yes.
You know, so that we sensitize our girls, our women, and also our boys and men about our rights and responsibilities online. You know, what are our limits? What can you be able to do? Beyond that is the whole area of controls, because, you know, unless we have controls around this area, then the rest is going to be noise.
Yeah. Okay.
How can we be able to ensure that there's less and less instance of identity theft, or people masquerading as, you know, these are not that, and hiding, as you rightfully put it, behind a keyboard and just handling abuses. So there's work to be done, and you know, we have to agree that technology is moving faster than our legal and regulatory frameworks. And we can just tie up those ends and address you know, some of the concerns that are coming up.
Yes.
I think if I may add to what Commissioner Zomo is saying, I think in terms of legal framework, there's always a challenge between balancing freedom of expression and privacy and protection online.
Which is what people have been talking about online.
Yeah, which is the controversy around the new amendments to the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, which is still a matter of litigation. In fact, I think the part that is missed is that there is an ongoing appeal on that particular section, section 27, which is part of what was amended into, but there was already an existing case on that. And I think we have also seen courts struggle to define things like obscene, because we have sections of that Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. We have data protection laws that prohibit, for instance, the sharing of obscene photos or intimate photos, but then the courts seem to disagree on how do we categorize obscene. But part of it is also because of the use of those provisions of the law for other purposes. So if you take, for instance, Kenya, we know what we have been going through the past 2024, 2025, and there has been a bit of concern on overreach, for instance, using those laws to charge certain critical voices, right? But then when we look, so those are issues that we still need to address. The legal frameworks are still coming up. I think it's good that we also have cases, because then through the cases the judges can help us settle, we can see where the gaps are, what we need to define more, what needs to change in the law to allow access. But there are also interesting things that come up, for instance, how investigations are handled. So for instance, I was looking at a case in Garissa, and there's two different cases, and one of the issues was the investigating officers were saying, for instance, I could not access the laptop because the laptop had a password, right? You'd think we
watch too many movies, there's a way to crack the code, no?
Right? You'd think that, and there's legal, for instance, you can go to court and say, I have due reason, right? Which is part of this controversy that we've had, whether police actually obtain court orders before they access people's gadgets, right? But you see, if there's a legitimate reason to think that you're perpetuating abuse against somebody, then they can obtain the necessary court order. So it's not just sufficient to wait for your day in court and tell us, oh, I did not access the laptop, right? There was another case I was looking at that involves the Garissa case that involves WhatsApp images, right? So somebody shares intimate photos of somebody on a WhatsApp platform, right? But you can easily delete. Nowadays, we even have disappearing messages on WhatsApp. So in that case it actually went through the appeal, because the initial court was like, the expert is saying the images were deleted, I simply could not access them, right? But then luckily in that case there were also witnesses, like other people in that WhatsApp group, who could say the group admin had to come to court and say, oh, those photos were actually shared by so and so, even if they have deleted. But it just makes you sad, like, to see the system failing and just telling us, oh, I cannot obtain it. It kind of perpetuates that narrative we've had, where women do not feel heard. They're like, nobody's going to take action. I'll be required to pay the police officers or the investigative agencies to facilitate this investigation. Which is something we are still fighting with SGBV, as it were, but now we need these technical experts to be able to obtain this data. And it's not enough to just say, No, we don't have the rights. I think they have proven that they can actually investigate for certain crimes. They can actually track devices for certain crimes. So I think we just need a bit more deliberate effort. Then you also mentioned the variances that we see between what is happening. We like to call it the global north.
Yes.
And I guess we are called the global south. But nowadays, we are like, no, we call ourselves the global majority, because Africa and the South America, we are, I guess, the majority in terms of numbers.
Yes.
But I think one of the challenges we have seen as practitioners in the digital rights space is the rules are not the same, right? There seems to be a certain, you could argue, for instance, the European Union has better laws. They were the pioneers of, for instance, data protection, what we often call the GDPR. So that kind of gives them a bit of an upper hand in how, and also enforcement, those things like the capacity of investigative agencies is definitely better. But one of the things we've been advocating around is we need the same attention, right? So one of the main problems in this digital governance space is ensuring the platforms also apply the same standards and the same care in the global north and the global south, right?
Global majority.
Global majority, sorry. Yeah, so, and it's things, I think one of the obvious examples, for instance, is in hate speech, for instance, during elections, and what Commissioner Nzomo was talking about, our languages, right? When we were coming up to the 2022 elections, I remember at the time I was working for a different organization, and I remember attending the launch of a certain report where they had tried to test meta platforms, that is Facebook, Instagram, to see how effective they are in flagging certain hate speech words in our local language, whether it's Sheng or our local, just ile lugha tu ya Wakenya. And it was very saddening to realize, like, they attempted to put up several adverts with very extreme hate speech. If you know anything about Kenyan politics and the Kenyan environment, you would immediately know that cannot go on the platforms. And one of the things they spotlighted is they did it several times, and they were only flagged for instance, the language is a bit indecent, but it's not the hate speech or the implication that might have in this environment, right? So it's the same challenge, because one of the things we talk about when we talk about TFGBV is the targeting of women in public spaces, right? So women politicians, for instance, they are likely more susceptible to this kind of abuse during elections. So if you cannot flag in our language, if you've not taken the time to understand the local context, then that's a failure on the part of the platform owners, right? So it's also one of the ongoing things that we need to keep fighting, because then where do you escalate, right? You can only report, but then many people who report also say, how do I follow up, right? And there are documented studies that have indicated, for instance, things that were addressed were where, for instance, you had access to somebody who works for Meta, for instance, in Kenya, so that they can follow up, right? But that also has become a bit controversial when Meta was sued in Kenya, and they withdrew even their content moderators from Kenya. So it's just that, how do we ensure that the community standards in these platforms are also applied equally and taken seriously in the global majority world as is in the global north? It shouldn't matter that it should be, yes, public figures, yes, but also anyone else, right? Once I raise concern, then there should be clear pathways for me to access redress.
It feels like there's a lot that has been done, but there's still a lot that needs to be done. It just feels like we make a step, and then, because the digital space is growing. It's different every other day. So that means if we've covered this kahol over here, something else chomokas on this other side. But Juliet, in talking about probably the situations or maybe cases that you've had to handle, in cases that probably have been successful, that have not been successful, you can share that with us, even as you tell us about how having education around this in the world of persons living with disabilities, how does that look like?
Thank you very much, Mikali. But allow me to start on what she mentioned on reporting. So I'd like you to picture a girl who's probably deaf, and she's going to report. Like, it's so unfair that in Kenya, is it really a must for her to have a sign language interpreter for her to report? So it means if she's not able to report.
Yeah.
If someone who is visually impaired like myself,
Yes.
and I cannot afford the cost of a guide,
Yes.
that means what? I won't report.
Yeah.
And how accessible are our reporting mechanisms? Does it always have to be audio for a deaf person? Is this information available in an alternative format for a person who is visually impaired?
Yeah.
Are the stations accessible for a wheelchair user? I love what the commissioner talked about, the SGBV court in Kilifi.
Yes.
So as it is, persons with disabilities face layered barriers where they are.
Yeah.
So now picture this person again traveling all that way. So that means a lot of cases go unreported.
Unreported?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of the systematic barriers that have been put in place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just continue, it's okay.
Yeah, so we part of our work is doing a lot of advocacy, awareness creation.
Yeah.
So even when the Computer and Cyber Misuse Act was out,
Yes.
is the government deliberate in disseminating this information right to the community level? Because if I don't know I'm being violated, how then will I be able to report? You get? Like one of the things we were intentionally doing is availing the act in alternative format, for example, in Braille, which is quite costly.
Yes.
Having a sign language interpreter during our training sessions. What we've seen worked, like you mentioned, in different countries, we've seen their systems are quite accessible.
Yeah.
Like they have options. If you are deaf, this is how you can report. If it's someone who is visually impaired, if you need a guide, they actually provide for that, where the state provides someone to come pick you up to report, and then your report and follow-up is actually accelerated as long as the case is marked it's for a person with disability.
Yes.
So progress, step by step, but we've seen it work, and we look for, I know we are good with acts and policies.
Yes.
I look forward to the day where we'll be implementing them successfully.
Yeah.
And I know we can't shoot all the way to the top,
Yes.
but just step by step, we look to see progress and inclusion.
Yes.
Inclusion.
Yes.
And I look forward to the day that disability will not be an afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we are factored right at the decision-making tables
Yeah.
all the way to the
We
top.
don't have to fight or
Yeah.
struggle to just be heard or seen
exactly.
or be included.
Yeah, we have to be deliberate in inclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention the fact that I feel like I am fortunate. I can afford a screen reading software.
Yes.
It's very expensive. So I want you to picture this girl who cannot afford the screen reading software.
Yeah.
She totally depends on someone else to do any work on the digital space. A lot of violations are happening, and unfortunately, right even when they go to report, number your COKC. What evidence do you have?
Oh, God.
You see?
Yeah.
So exclusion right from the community level all the way to the top.
Yeah.
So I feel like when we're talking about GBV and TFGBV,
Yeah.
it's so much more for persons with disabilities.
Disability.
It's only that they are not reported. Yeah.
And this is the silence that I was talking about earlier. Who does it benefit? Because
Yeah.
the more we keep quiet, the more we probably enable, empower the people who continue to probably abuse, violate our rights. And we're getting into the elections. And so we're getting, and I don't know if the by-elections are anything to go by. If they're anything to go by, I don't know if we're ready for what that space looks like. And like Juliet, I think, and Jane mentioned, like for the woman in that space, it becomes very, very difficult. It's not just your fellow counterparts, politicians, who are doing this to you. It's also wananchi.
Yes.
It's also fans of different parties, and it's there.
Yes.
You are all fair game. It does not matter who you are during that time. And I'm wondering, what are we doing different this time? Do we have systems in place to just make sure that it is cleaner-ish, or probably repercussions of people who go online and do these things will get?
Right. I wanted to make an addition to something that Jen said, which is around women in the public sphere are the ones who are mostly affected.
Yes.
Because that data is only because those are the people that report.
Yes.
Because if you get exploited online, you're likely to report.
Yes.
A girl from my village in Kalama will not do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why the data is skewed, because how is the reporting done?
Yes.
But beyond that is, in my previous life, I was out for GSMA, and we were pushing to ensure that women get into the digital space.
Yes.
The effect of technologically facilitated GBV is that it now dissuades more women from coming online. So they lose an opportunity in terms of getting skills, in terms of getting economic opportunity, and which is a big cost even to the economy. And I think it's the more reason why we need to address it, as a matter of urgency and a national concern.
Yeah.
But going to elections,
Yes.
I think that's one of the areas that everyone is afraid about. But we were able to flag it in good time. We've had meetings with the UNDP to see how is it that we can be able to address this, because it has both an effect on candidates, but also on the voters themselves.
Yeah.
Because there is content that can be shared online, and you just feel that I don't want to get involved in these elections. So it takes away from you your civic rights to vote for your preferred candidate. So what are we doing? What are we proposing as a bigger team? Because we cannot do it as a commission alone.
Yeah.
Is that we need partners like GN, we need international development agencies, we need the private sector, we need media to also come on board.
Yes.
And so what is it that we're proposing is an early warning and a rapid response mechanism where, when these cases get reported, around this time, then there's faster intervention. As a commission, we have a department that does legal redress.
Yeah.
So you can be able to log in a complaint online. Then we have lawyers on board who can now support you in terms of getting support in court and fast-tracking this process. There's a lot of work, obviously, to be done, working with our security agencies, our judicial services, to ensure that can be actualized.
Okay.
That is number one. Number two is the whole area that Juliet is involved in, around public education and also pushing for ethical behavior.
Yes.
Because all these things that we are talking about is about our own ethics.
That's true.
As human beings.
Yes.
When we sit and hurl insults online, how does it benefit us? When we go in, use AI to manipulate your image and put you in a compromising position, how does it benefit myself? And I think that's an area that we can be able to work as a bigger community of Kenyans to see how best to address it.
Okay.
The other thing is around, to ensure, once this matter goes through court, the amendments that have been proposed on the computer and cyber crimes amendment.
Yeah.
And then now the legal systems, takes over to ensure that we can get redress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'd just like to find out, when it comes to me, the responsibility I have as the person who gets online, as the woman who's getting online, and the kind of information that I put out there, what am I supposed to be restrictive? Are there places I shouldn't go? What are the limits when it comes to me as the user of the internet as a woman? And we'll be tackling that and so much more after the break. But the question that we're asking you today is, what kind of digital harm have you experienced the most? What kind of digital harm have you experienced the most? Please share your experience with us on NTV Kenya on all our social media platforms. Our WhatsApp line is open. You can also call us. We are live. We are live. We are live. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Your World. And this Friday, we're talking about the 16 days of activism, and you're just focused on the theme this year, where we're just looking at digital harm meted against women. And we've agreed the digital space now has become a public space. And women, as we are fighting for them in public spaces offline to live safely, is the same thing that we are fighting for them to live also safe, exist safely when it comes to the digital space. And during the break, we were just like, I'm sure every woman probably has experienced something, one or the other. And I was saying, do I share mine? Do I not? It's like, just share, say it. But anyway, we have clickbait is a thing where people just write things just to hook people on. Yeah. And we could say so many things, especially if you're in the public space, like Commissioner said. If you're in the public space, then you are fair game. And things have been said. There was one that I was told I look like was created by the devil. And it's laughable now. And then there was a whole blog saying that I have secrets. I have a secret about the fact that I am married and I have 4 children. Wow. So I am keeping... I am keeping that away from the world. And I'm just like, what? How do you hide a whole, 4 kids, It's interesting that it's different for every person out there. It's one thing after the other, and lies on top of lies, and people believe these things. Unfortunately. It will be something as simple as your age. You're celebrating your birthday and you posted, hey, I'm 37, yay. Nilisoma na msichana ako 55, ajai toka 30s. And it will be small things, but then most of the times a man would put up that and it would not be an issue. But a woman would put it up and then it would be an issue. And Juliet, you were saying you wanted to share your experience
Definitely,
as well.
definitely.
Yes.
So like I mentioned earlier, when someone is visually impaired like myself, we use screen reading softwares to interact with the computer. And even when you're using them, there are sites that are inaccessible. So that means I have to depend on someone who is sighted. So I think before I got the screen reading software, because sometimes you'll go to a cyber, sometimes it will even be a caregiver.
Yeah.
So about a year later, I get a notification in my email about a certain social media account that has come through that account. I didn't open that account.
Okay.
So now I'm shocked because there's a social media account that was opened without my consent, without me knowing. It has been engaging. So my concern was if probably some bad information had come from that account, how then do I say that it was not me?
Yeah.
So that I felt like having the disability, being a woman having a disability, exposed me to that. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know reporting mechanisms. I didn't know where I should go.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was to close the account. Later on is when I was informed and educated on steps I should have taken.
Okay.
But my major concern was they used all my data, all of it, to create this account.
Yes.
So I didn't know again to go how to check what has been posted using this account.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many more voices of women and girls with disabilities and caregivers of children with disabilities in the community are experiencing this? And I'm telling you for free, many cases are not reported.
That is so true.
They are underreported. And the reason I am passionate is, like I said, it comes from my lived experiences as a woman with disability.
You know, I've seen many celebrities go through the same as well, where their accounts with your pictures up to date.
Yes.
And now I'd get inboxes where people are saying, Mwikali, is it true that you are fundraising for this? Because I'd like to give some money. I'm like, what? What? I'm not fundraising for anything. But when you look at the account that is asking people to fundraise for God knows what, it has your updated pictures, your names, your age, everything. So the question that I asked earlier before we went on a break about having what information do I want out there? How do I protect my data, my personality, my social media space? Because I need it. Like the commissioner said, you need it to work. You need it for money. You can't just shut it out. Jane.
I think to just start with lived experiences and how we are responsible users. I think one of the other important elements for us, at least at Oxfam level, has been through our work with domestic workers, for instance. You realize that employers share information about people, whether maybe they have had an altercation, whether it's a name and shame, or my nanny did this or did that. Or just shaming or sharing. I've also seen people share their CCTV, their in-house CCTV videos featuring their domestic workers or nannies. And it's just, I don't think people think that person has not even consented to the information being out there, and here you are sharing. So what you asked about responsible use, we have to be very careful about even how we share our children or other people's children on platforms. Just think about what you're exposing them to without their consent, right? And I think another important element is, before I speak to the data protection angle, is you asked how do you use. It's a bit hard, honestly, because you see now in terms of platforms and verification and pages, that is now a platform issue. How can they help us cut off this other pseudo accounts? Like, what are their processes in terms of allowing you to set up an account and be able to run it without infringing on somebody's else identity, right? But then you can report. I think one of the things that we need to encourage, I know, and it's also the same struggle with offline GBV, the shame, the victim blaming, the processes, they're lengthy. But I think we just need to try our best and keep reporting these cases, because if we are talking about enhancing how the investigative agencies work or enhancing even how our judiciary is responding to these cases, then they need these cases to be there. We need to document, be able to get the statistics, as Commissioner was saying. How about these other populace? Because I think for women in the public eye, you're kind of forced to speak about it. yeah, as part of what you do, because you have to speak about it. But I would think, and then there are other things like protecting your account. I think we have always talked about two-factor authentication to avoid things like hacking. Yeah, you just have to be careful in terms of how you use data, or where you allow your data to go, just your data hygiene. I think that's what we call it. Okay. But also looking at other avenues of redress. I think one of the other one would be the data protection laws, and perhaps it could be an avenue that people should explore, because of you have the Commissioner's Office, then you have seen them decide certain cases. Yes. But I think people are not aware of the provisions now that could be relevant to the subject of TFGBV, and I think it's section 72. So there's a recourse here, especially when you're blackmailed on the basis of somebody wants to share your private data or something like that. You can report to the ODPC, or what you were saying about somebody using your data for another account. Yes, despite, in addition to reporting to the platforms, you can also report from a data protection point of view. There is also the civil remedies avenue. You can sue people. I know media houses have actually been sued for running, even what they run, blogs, gossip, that juicy gossip column. Yes. I've seen a few cases of that as well. Yeah. So even exploring that civil remedies, where it's a bit more, even in law, I know the burden of proof is a bit lower, and the process might be easier. Yeah, so that is also an avenue I think many more women should explore in terms of seeking remedies. Even as we resolve the criminal element, at least if you have to pay somebody's damage for being reckless or careless with their information, then it's something worth trying.
Great. Yeah. And maybe you'd like to add on to that, Commissioner.
Yes. In terms of how much is it that you can be able to share?
Yes.
Personally, I'm not very active on social media. Except WhatsApp and LinkedIn.
We don't look at WhatsApp as a social media platform. So just like, but it is. Okay.
But I always persuade people to share what's essentially necessary, and which you feel that you're comfortable putting out there. Because there's this practice where people, when you wake up in the morning, you want to show people what you've taken for breakfast. As you exit your door, you're also sharing, including the address. Then you come into town, this is where I work. Over the weekend, this is where I go for my social events on Saturday, and you're there with your kids, taking photos. This also becomes a security issue, because criminals can use this information to simulate what's your social behavior, how do you move, how is your house like, because most of us also take, including our furniture. We take videos around our house. This is how it looks.
House tour.
House tour. And even when it comes to some of these comments, it draws from that. What is it that you've been sharing online, and people look at it, history, how has it been, and then they come back at you and harass you based on some of the information that you share. So my encouragement to women, girls is just share what is necessary. What you can do with with people knowing about it.
Okay, and just probably to pick on from something that Jane talked about earlier, Commissioner, was about some of the things that you look at when cases are brought in, and what qualifies them to be like, no, this one we can continue, this one we need to step into because we need to fight for this. What are some of those cases, and what do they look like, or what do they compromise off?
One, we look at the threshold. Can it stand before a court, and what is the evidence that we can be able to gather out of it?
Yes.
So we have like a triage within the office where we have a sitting with the person that comes to report and get to understand what's the background, what is the evidence that we can be able to procure around this matter. If we feel that we have a watertight case that we can be able to present in court, then we support them in doing that. And as a commission, we support them pro bono, free of cost. So we don't charge them, and we ensure that we work with them the entire journey. Beyond this is the entire issue of psychosocial support, because you say that some of these abuses goes into you. It affects you as a person mentally and socially. So we're also providing those levels of support. And we're working with actors within government. Where facilities are available, we can be able to make reference or referrals to those facilities. Yeah.
Okay. So there is help, and I like that we keep insisting on just report. It's data that will be used that will probably create. If we probably have handled this one way, then there's another way to look at things. And Juliet, if there was probably a way to just have an inclusive, what is it called? Way to handle this thing, or probably there is a law or a policy that is being put in place, what will be a non-negotiable, especially for persons living with disabilities?
Accessibility has to be the foundation of everything.
And non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. And then, I mean, as long as a system is accessible and I'm able to access it independently, I mean, so much will be prevented. A deaf girl or a deaf woman is able to access these sites. A woman with psychosocial disability or all forms of disability. Everyone is able to access, if it's government portals, if it's banking apps. Especially, I cannot overemphasize on banking sites because it's been a major challenge for screen readers. So that means there's a certain level I'll get and I'll have to get sighted support. I'm exposing my data to someone. I don't know what is going to happen. So for me, accessibility, from the tech companies to government to policymakers to CSOs, accessibility has to be the foundation of every work we do in the digital space. And I also like to call about criminalization on TFGBV, especially for persons with disabilities, because the vulnerabilities are higher. They have layered vulnerabilities. Someone will target, once a deaf girl once told us, the perpetrator said in front of the administration, he targeted her because he knew she wouldn't report and because she's deaf. So this is at the community level. So how much more in the digital space? So much as, yes, it is empowering us, it's also exposing us to harm. So criminalizing TFGPV targeted to persons with disabilities. And I'd also like to say, I'd love government to fund digital literacy programs for persons with disabilities. Because if every one of us has digital skills, it means we'll no longer depend on people or caregivers for any work on the digital space. Let it be deliberate and inclusion to be deliberate. Let us, the same way we fund education, let's fund digital programs for persons with disabilities, especially where adaptive technology is involved. It's quite expensive. Most people cannot afford. I'll give you an example. Like me, when I went to be trained on adaptive tech, it was around 50,000–60,000. So my parents, as it is, could not afford secondary school education. And when other people without disabilities are doing their packages, I have to look for this amount for me to be trained on adaptive tech. So can we have funding that will at least subsidize this cost to factor in inclusion?
Absolutely.
I think I learned about there. In terms of digital literacy and skills. For PWDs, that's the greatest equalizer. Because one of the things that interesting, Mokali, is that people with visual impairment can be able to write code. Can be able to do programming and develop solutions. So that means is that they can live more independent lives. They can be more productive in society. They can be able to, because we had a case while I was at GSMA, one of the best programmers across Africa is a lady with cerebral palsy. In our communities, those are kids that we tie at home and we don't want to expose. But it's been discovered by is it psychologists or people around that area, neuroscientists. Is that people with cerebral palsy have a unique skill in terms of finality of code. They can write the best code without having to course corrections all the time. So I want to support your point that digital literacy probably is one of the greatest equalizers, and it gives a lot of autonomy to PWDs.
Very true.
And I think there are several organizations that are running, including ourselves, digital skills and knowledge around that programming, and just trying to organize training sessions or training materials. But I think we need to be more intentional about targeting, for instance, specific vulnerable groups, persons with disabilities, for instance, and ensuring that training is tailored to their needs. Reaching marginalized, we work on inequality, so we really need to address those parts of our communities that are still facing, because we are just exacerbating, like these people are already marginalized or vulnerable, as it were. Now, if we do not pay particular attention, then it's becoming worse, and they're being left behind even more. And 2030 is just 5 years away. We've been talking about leave no one behind, but then if we are not intentional about those specific communities, then we will not achieve anything. And I think for me, a more holistic approach to training, and I think it's a challenge to commissioner and maybe the commission, is let's train the entire pathway, right? Whether it's the judges, the investigators, the prosecutors, the reporting desks. I know we've had a back and forth about this GBV desk, and now we have TFGBV. I don't know what we are going to do. Next, but also, I think we are also waiting for the task force report. Perhaps we can see how we solidify those recommendations that we've had over the years about the need to have specialized people who are particularly trained to handle GBV, and make it easier for women who are now dealing with all this shame, psychological impact of all this abuse. And I think finally, is to us as a society, we really need to, I don't know why people feel entitled, or the anonymity in how we lack empathy. People say whatever they want because I can't say it to you, Mwikali, as I sit with you here, but because I'm behind a keyboard, I can say it. And the whole things like manosphere, the patriarchy, all those movements on our platforms, I think we really need to reflect as a society how we are teaching our children in how we speak to each other, how we engage on platforms with each other. We just need to take a bit more responsibility to ensure. It's a long journey. I say it with a bit of apprehension because if it were even GBV offline would not be an issue, or we will be at least making it shouldn't be to the magnitude that we are still into in the year 2025. How long do we need to fight this war? But I think it needs to be said every time. That people need to, we need to be a bit more intentional in how we are operating in those spaces, and just not say, if you wouldn't say it to me, don't say it. If you wouldn't abuse somebody, don't do it. In face-to-face, don't do it on the digital platforms. Even as we work now with government and the platforms to figure out all the other legal things, but taking responsibility for our own behavior.
Great. As we come to the end of this conversation, probably what the future looks like, even as we are actively smack in the middle of the 16 days of activism, what does the future look like? In that space, especially now that we're looking at digital harm, and maybe, Commissioner, you can touch on why the process is, what is the delay probably in terms of having this communication, education, in all, taking care of the whole pathway.
I think in terms of public education is a responsibility for all of us. And my persuasion is that it needs to go into the school system.
That's true.
That we teach our kids right from early years that this is the responsible use of technology. You know, when you go online, you know, this is how you do it. Because again, we're also seeing them, our young kids, exposing themselves on TikTok and, you know, just dressing down or dressing off to take videos and share those online without having to care about the risks involved. Number two is around the risk of the digital divide widening. I mentioned it that if the digital spaces become hostile for women and girls, then the risk is that they will not want to be involved in those spaces. They'll become like myself and retreat to WhatsApp. and those are spaces. Not that I retreated, I've never been there.
It's never been your cup of tea.
It's never been. So that is a risk. And the reality is that the world is moving digital, you know, in terms of all aspects, education, work, our life, leisure, and all the aspects. So if they become hostile, then what happens is that we are denying those people the opportunity to be able to play in that space. Beyond that, it's a human rights issue. Because that's how I look at it. And we need to ensure that the spaces become safe for everyone to be able to work and thrive. And we make them secure for all of us, secure and safe. And lastly is, you know, all of us to do our bit religious organizations. I was in a function where the Archbishop of the ABC Church was preaching, and he was speaking about all these elements. And it was very refreshing in a church service, and he's just speaking about how adults are going online and sharing stuff that they should not be sharing. So if we consistently, persistently engage and do this, then we can be able to accelerate the process of us getting there, and us being a lot more responsible in terms of how we use online resources.
Absolutely. We have no time at all, but Juliet, you're parting short and what the future looks like for PWDs as well.
As we close this discussion, for me the future is looking bright, because I'll give an example. We once had an engagement with Kerry, and they were like, we want you to come on the table, tell us what accessibility looks like for you, so that now you're able to access, for example, ITEX independently. So there's hope in the future. My call to action is basically, let us be deliberate in inclusion. Digital safety is not a privilege, it's a right.
It is,
and disability rights are human rights.
Absolutely. Yes.
The future, the risks, new technologies. We are all talking about AI, but in all its forms, new technologies is a risk. The call to action, intentionality from a multidiscipline approach from the developers, the platforms, the enforcement agencies, non-governmental organizations. There's just really need for an intentional multidisciplinary approach to address the challenges we face.
Absolutely. I don't think it's just a one-directional kind of issue. It's everybody's, it's all hands on deck. All hands, lawmakers, institutions, all these platforms, communities as well. And I like that kwa kanisa pia tumeingia. We're talking about it. Thank you so much for coming, Commissioner. Thank you, Juliet. Thank you, Jane. And we keep having this conversation, not just because it's the 16 days of activism. Come back some more. We're here. We're here for all of that. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Like we've said, the digital space is for all of us. And if the future is digital, so should safety be. It should be the future, that we are all safe and secure in those spaces. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next week. Have yourself an amazing, amazing weekend. Adios.